Hello and welcome to How We Live Online. I'm Christina.
I'm Joanna.
And today we have a two-part episode investigation, essentially, that you are going to get 2 weeks apart, I guess, because we're going to do part one, then next week our normal internet news, and then part two. But Joanna, you can explain the first part of this.
Yeah, so both the parts are to do with the concept of technology and time. TNT, tech and time for short.
Dancy.
TNT. And this first one, we were really curious about this question of what has technology done to our perception of time?
Mm-hmm.
Christina, do you have this background?
Yeah. So when I asked Joanna, I popped the question for her to be the podcast hostess with me. We were talking about things that we would want to discuss on the pod, and something that came up is this idea that as technology advances faster and faster, our perception of time is getting like faster or shorter, or things just seem to be moving rapidly in the sense, especially something that I'm interested in is like this generational divide within, like cultural touchstones or actual abilities and communication, uses of communication or communication. I'm thinking of the word tactics, but that sounds like weirdly, I don't know, strategic, but basically like communication methods. How over time, or how, at least right now, what it feels like is that the divide between the way that I communicate with my friends and the way that my mom communicates with her friends and the way that my grandma communicates with her friends and people in their, immediate social circles vary almost drastically. And so with that, the idea is, because I have the ability and access to use things like social media and texting and iMessaging and FaceTiming and stuff, versus my mom usually she'll send a text, but she won't have a full conversation over text. She'll make a plan that way. She'll usually stay on the phone. My grandma will be on the phone for hours and hours because that's how she hangs out with someone, is that she, speaks to them on the phone, but it's really hard to FaceTime her. And then, my other grandma sends letters to me and stuff. So with those communication methods being so different, and with our cultural touchstones being so different, because I can't even share the experience of sending a playlist to a grandparent because they don't know how to use it or listen to it. I don't know, I think there's a big divide there that is new because technology is advancing so rapidly, and the younger you are, the more ability you have to learn and use those things. And so you become, I don't want to say estranged because that is not exactly the right word, but the divide between the ability to communicate with people who are in different generations, just the gap widens and widens the older that the person is. Generally speaking, I would say that there are plenty of older people who are technologically savvy, but they have the interest in learning those things because it's like a language. It really is like a new digital language that, the younger you are, the more able you are to learn that kind of thing. It's harder to learn a new language when you're older. It just is. So that's the main idea. And I was talking to my friend Celia, who is not a medievalist exactly, but knows more about medieval times than I do. Just about this idea.
Medieval file.
Metaphile, medieval, I don't know. Anyway, and she was saying, yeah, I mean, and this is a new kind of divide, because when you think about the way that generations were divided hundreds and hundreds of years ago, people were still working the same jobs, living largely in the same places, as they grew up and taking part in like similar religious practices and generally had the same community. But now that like the world has gotten smaller because of technology advancing, people can move around more and still stay in touch. But the way that people stay in touch, the thesis of this is, that the way that people stay in touch just varies drastically between generations. And the reason for that being technology just is moving faster than ever before. I think especially technology, communication technology, because technology can mean a lot of things, but communication technology.
For today, talking about like the perception of time, the anecdote you gave about your mom and then your grandma's communication preferences, I think speaks to a lot of what I was reading as well about like, one piece of it is like the instant gratification piece. And so you're talking about like a text message versus your mom makes a plan versus your grandma has hours long phone conversation or even writes letters. So it's so interesting to me to think about like the difference in expectation of time for a communication interaction. And the whole idea of perception of time is really interesting to me, especially I'm just thinking about like in the context of a phone conversation with your grandma. I feel like that just perfectly embodies how two different people can be perceiving an interaction so differently. You know what I'm saying? Like you can feel like a conversation is dragging on over the phone with your grandma, but your grandma feels like it's a normal pace.
Yeah.
And
I was
so
I was joking with my dad earlier about like, I mean, we were talking about my sister just like wanting answers so fast. Like wanting because of like the ability to, I don't know, you have so much knowledge at your fingertips when you have a phone. And she was like gonna miss her train or something, but I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I think that like just the younger you are, the more you're like, answer me, I'm texting you, I'm FaceTiming you. You haven't called me back. It's been 15 minutes. This is so annoying.
Yeah.
Whereas like I think older people move at a slower pace. And I'm not even talking about people who are retired. Like I'm just talking about anyone who didn't grow up with a personal computer in whatever form that came in, a laptop or a Palm Pilot, if you remember those. I don't even know if that was a computer though. I think it was just like a little agenda.
I think that's like a planner.
I loved my dad's Palm Pilot. I wanted it so bad. Oh man. I made a fake one out of cardboard.
Oh my God, I was a big cardboard.
And I have my mom saved a mini computer I made out of cardboard.
Yes, can I just say, like, for me, making technology out of cardboard was a childhood experience. And over the summer, my cousins, like, I don't even know, Nina / my cousins, if you're listening to this, you roasted me for this over the summer, bringing it up. They didn't get it.
Wait.
But it's a thing.
I thought, okay, I was making spy gear specifically, but that's the same shit. I just love Terry the Spy.
I think a lot of people did that, yeah. Well, spy, okay. I feel like, okay, honestly, spy gear is gonna have to be woven in. I already know, spoiler alert, girl tech, so cool and connected, will be woven into a later episode of the pod. Spy gear will also be woven in. I promise you.
Stay tuned.
These are big.
What the fuck? The podcast should be named Girl Tech.
Informative things. Girl Tech is like a brand already.
But that's the vibe. That's so funny. I really forgot about that. Okay, you guys, if you don't know what Girl Tech is, it's those notebooks that I'm thinking of.
I'm actually planning on talking about them
this
later
episode?
in the pod. Like in the bro episode.
You guys just got a sneak peek. No, but my thought of Girl Tech is like those locking diaries that kind of look like computers. Okay. Yes. They're like pink and purple.
That was one of them. That was one of their products, the Secret Diaries.
I want one. I want one.
Yeah. Password journal, that's what they were called.
Secret Diaries.
Okay. So to kick us off with talking about technology and our perception of time, we had Christina give us an anecdote. Love it. I have another anecdote that I thought was really interesting, which is coming from the book Homo Distractus, which part of it talks about this idea of technology and your perception of time. So the anecdote goes like this. A manager of a popular New York restaurant sort of made this blog post about their observations of their business over the years. So recently, although the venue was still full and prices were at an all-time high, the profits kept declining. And they analyzed sort of the behavior of the restaurant patrons, and they found that the only thing that changed in the past decade was that all visitors now had smartphones and were so busy taking selfies and Instagramming food that it took so much longer to make an order and eat it.
Wait. Okay.
Yes.
Seriously?
That's why I say it's an anecdote. Like
that's okay.
I don't know.
That would help our argument, right? But I'm just imagining like a curmudgeon Luke Danes in the Gilmore Girls cafe being like, well, if everyone would get off their damn phones and just eat the damn food.
Yeah, literally no phones allowed in Luke's diner.
Is he still doing that?
But yes.
Oh my God, wait, is he still doing that in the reboot? Someone fact check. I don't feel like it because I don't feel like watching that again. Look, that may be true, but maybe it's not true.
Yeah, I read that and I thought it was sort of interesting, like, because to me, when I think about the idea of technology changing our perception of time, it is more about perception and not like literally technology causing us to spend more time on things. Like it takes you longer to eat things. But also at the same time, I think that, and this is what the research I went through kind of said too, that there's just a lot of different things going on in our brains and in our like physical world that technology is causing an interaction with time, and it plays out in a lot of different ways.
I'm so excited to learn more about what you learned. I want to say,
yes.
Who spends more than 1 second taking a picture of their fucking food? If you do and you're not running a food blog that's making you money, you need to reevaluate, and that's all I'll say. We can move on.
Okay. I would just like to say some of us who have old phones, unless we hold our phones still for a few seconds while we're taking a picture, the picture comes out blurry.
We need to get Joanna a new phone.
We can't go down this
tangent we don't have time
right now, but this is for the cafe next week. Is my chronicles of getting a new phone. I did get a new phone. Long story short, it's blacklisted and I can't use it. Stay tuned next week for the cafe.
Titillating.
Okay. So I'm just going to go over a high level of different reasons of why we think that this interaction of technology can change our perception of time. And feel free to come on with your thoughts, and then we'll dive deeper into some of these things. Okay, so one, this is coming from Homo Distractus again. Okay, so there's an induced sense of urgency in product design. So this is kind of like when you're booking a hotel, it says there's only 3 rooms left at this price. Or when you're buying tickets for a concert, you have 15 minutes left to complete your order, and then it goes away. So there's...
So is that saying that that's fake, or is that just saying that that exists and it makes us stressed?
It's this induced sense of urgency. Okay. So in different ways, in different technological products, they're inducing a sense of urgency.
Act now. Okay.
And limiting time. Okay. Yes, act now. Okay. 2, and this is also like what you're saying about Maddie, having access to things and information in real time creates a sense of urgency. So I can think of that with information, like you're saying, Maddie wanted to know about the train, but I think also like physical things, right? We feel really entitled to 2-day shipping or being able to get what we need almost instantaneously. And technology.
The Starbucks app.
Starbucks app, yes.
One of my most used apps.
Okay. I can't go on the Starbucks tangent, but Starbucks is doing really crazy things. Starbucks is like one of the biggest banks in the world right now because of how much money by amount of money, Starbucks is one of the biggest banks.
Because of it holding money in the app?
Yes.
Okay, next week.
Okay, next. And this, you also mentioned this, so the idea of social media and being able to share things quickly makes our perception of time speed up. Here's a really interesting one that I hadn't thought about, which is this idea of human time versus computer time in terms of processing data and information. So essentially, this is an idea that, like, you know, computers compute much faster than humans can. And
they do.
Yes. And maybe that sort of changes our idea of efficiency and how efficient we perceive ourselves to be or want to be, sort of achieving a level of efficiency that only computers have.
Right. Because you're like, my computer did that so fast, so I should be able to do. I guess, like, I don't consciously think that.
But you, at least it's,
I know that if I use my computer to do something, it'll be faster than if I do it, namely math.
right. But I think what's interesting is, you know, if we're talking about a generational divide, you know, before there was a point when humans were the most efficient processing, a human brain was the most efficient thing at processing information. But now there are other things that are more efficient than a human brain at processing information. And in terms of comparing, the human mind, you know, makes comparisons and makes patterns. So it's just an interesting thing to think about, that, like,
yeah, we're not like consciously making comparisons between our brains and computer brains, but obviously we all know that a computer processes things more quickly than we do, which makes me scared about robots. Very scared.
Yeah, robots are scary. Unless they're a Roomba. Then they're so cute.
Do you have a Roomba yourself?
No, I don't, but I would love to have one, especially because they make a map of your house or apartment. Christina just scowled at me a little bit.
I'm laughing at you because you're like, you could just make a map of your apartment.
I know, or the Roomba.
But I want a little robot to make a little map.
It's like a little
Can you access the map?
Yes, because you can tell it where to go.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's cute.
It is cute. That's fine.
Until it becomes Smart House, like that Disney original movie.
Yeah. You know, that could make it into an internet cafe. Someone told me we should review movies.
Why not?
I don't.
We can do anything we want.
We can, and we do. Okay. So the other thing with this human time versus computer time, that I feel like is really interesting to think about, and does affect this perception of time, is the interaction with technology that facilitates quick hits of dopamine rather than deep thinking, which alters your perception of time.
Okay. Say that again.
Okay. So, a lot of interactions with computers do not encourage deep thinking. Rather, they are like a slot machine, right? And they encourage these quick hits of dopamine.
Okay.
Which is what is speeding up your perception of time. Because you're not spending a lot of time thinking about something. concentrating on something, rather you're moving through quick hits of dopamine, and that's speeding up your perception of time.
I'm thinking social media, obviously, getting likes, getting comments, / commenting on other things, reading what people have to say back, / the news feed in general, being able to just scroll through it, / reading headlines, not the whole article. Trying to think of other things that are computer, not just internet. I'm not coming up with anything. I'm just thinking of the internet stuff.
Yeah, that's probably true. I think most internet, I mean, then I'll talk about this later. To me, a lot of this comes back to the idea of the attention economy.
Of course it does. Sam Woo, here he is. For those of you watching, which you're not, because we are not putting the video up, I'm holding the attention merchants.
Yeah.
Sam Woo.
Yeah.
My king. Just kidding.
You're kidding?
No, I'm saying, I said my king, then I just said just kidding. Because no man will rule me.
Thank you for that clarification. Yeah. I'll get to the piece about the attention economy later at the end. But it does have to do with that, I think. Okay, and then so the last thing from Homo Distractus that I thought was interesting was, so kind of paired with all of that, we see an increase in, trends in mindfulness and slow living being more popular, because people can really feel these effects. And they were wondering how to combat it. And a lot of it is sort of this idea of kind of hitting on the last point of deep thinking, but sort of more than that, just kind of finding moments of mindfulness and not interacting with technology all the time and just coming back to yourself.
Of course. Mindfulness exercises, breathing exercises.
Yeah.
What's interesting about that is that I think a lot of the ways in which that becomes a fad, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because mindfulness and practices like breathing practices or de-stressing practices became something to write about or report on or whatever during the pandemic, especially. They're packaged in such a quick expedite this kind of way, where, you know what, you'll just, if you just take 15 minutes before bed to de-stress, you're going to change your life. And one, how sustainable is that? You have to have a lot of self-discipline. 2, 15 minutes is not that much, but I feel like they always pick meaning like, I don't know, lifestyle influencers, people pushing some kind of self-medicative product like melatonin gummies or whatever, or like sleep like mattress brands or what, I don't know, people who have a stake in this game, right? Like have to make it seem possible to do, which I'm not saying it's not impossible. I'm not saying it's not possible to do. But I am saying that like the way that it is, even the way that mindfulness is fed to us is in this quick fix kind of way. Yeah,
I totally agree with that. I do think that the research around it shows obviously more mindfulness time is beneficial, but I do think even 15 minutes can be beneficial. But I think the most interesting piece to me is what you were saying, like to me, it's not a solution to have another app on your phone. To go on for 15 minutes, right? It's like you can take 15 minutes of silence by yourself away from your phone. It's not decreasing our dependence on our devices. And so I think that's what's ironic to me is like at the end of the day, even though I mean, I don't know if all of them are maybe some of them are nefarious, some of them are whatever, but they're not really addressing the root cause of feelings of anxiety that could be caused by, feeling like time is speeding up
Mm-hmm.
due to
Right. Like
technology.
I'm thinking of like BetterHelp. I get
Mhm.
so many ads for BetterHelp on podcasts, which is a therapy app, a free therapy app, which I've heard from people who've used it that it's like, it's not a sustainable thing to use. And then,
No.
like breathing meditation apps or any like, or even guided meditation, which like, I think that if you find that these things help you, why would you not continue to use them? I'm not trying to say or judge people who do, but I am saying that like it seems that we are reaching for things outside of ourselves to find some inner peace
Hmm.
when maybe the thing to do is to be by yourself for 15 minutes with your
Hmm.
thoughts. Maybe that's the thing. Maybe you don't need to like listen to. And I'm not saying that I do these things. Like I tried to go straight to bed after like watching a million TikToks every night. I can't sleep like that. It's fucking stupid. It's a terrible idea.
Hmm.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And you should, sell a guide to having more time to yourself. Link in bio. Only
I
$5.
think
Download the PDF.
yeah, so Joanna can get a new phone.
So now I'll go into some actual more people who have studied this and their findings. Okay, so first we're going to start with Aoife McLaughlin from James Cook University. And Aoife studies this, and their kind of overarching statement about their research is that they've found some indication that interacting with technology and technocentric societies has increased some type of pacemaker within us, which I thought was a really interesting way to put it. And in this article that I read that was an interview with Aoife, there was this, it's a non-cited fact, and I wanted to bring it up, though I couldn't find anything to back up this fact, but I just thought it was really interesting. And if anyone has read anything that, you know, backs up this fact, I would love to know. But they said that as far back as the French Revolution, there have been reports of individuals complaining about the pace of modern life.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was really interesting because it connects this another idea that I think is out in the world about the pace of modern life. And like, you hear anecdotally people talk about life moving slower or fast in certain places, like the
Mm-hmm.
city versus rural areas. And I'm not sure if that's to do with technology in general. But I think it's just interesting to think about the different ways that our perception of time plays out, right? Because that's something I hear all the time about life
Right.
moving slower or faster.
Well, I think that does, well, if you take the city rural example about perception of time, and the pace of modern life or whatever, I think that does have to do with technology. It has to do with infrastructure and industry.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that this idea of the pacemaker, and also I'm so bummed that they didn't cite like some letter from some person during the French
I know,
Revolution.
right? I
Like
looked for
I'm
it.
so overwhelmed.
I'm so curious about
Yeah.
that because
Yeah.
I would love to know like what they mention as being, or like I don't know enough about the French Revolution too to like know how people felt at the time. Scholars of the French Revolution, please write in.
Or like any like I'm just thinking any pastoral olden time like Jane Austen times,
Yeah.
like what are the letters saying? Are they like I can't keep up with all these letters. There's always every day a letter coming in, or like oh my God, like when the postal service started happening,
Mm-hmm.
like an actual postal service, not like a man on I guess a man on a horse is a postal service, but
Pony Express.
yeah, like, yeah, it's funny to think about someone being overwhelmed by having to write letters. Imagine if you have to write like, I don't know, 3 letters a day.
Mm-hmm. I actually think it's really interesting that you use the word overwhelmed because when I was in college, I worked a lot with like campus health. And that was something we talked about a lot, was this increasing sense of overwhelm.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's literally what they call it in the, mental health industry, because people had never attributed feelings like overwhelm. Only recently have we really started to use that word.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting.
Someone break out the Oxford English Dictionary. Let's fact check that.
Well, I guess I'm trying to think about what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, people have used the word overwhelmed, but I think like
Not
never
as an
before
emotion, maybe.
as an emotion by like high schoolers, and like a communal emotion, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
we are feeling overwhelmed, not just like some of us feel overwhelmed,
Mm-hmm.
but like it's like a thing that like so many more people are reporting feeling overwhelmed than ever before, which I think could also be mixed in with all this tech and time stuff. But I can look for a fact other than what I say to back that up. But to talk about IFA's research a little more, so the experiment that they did was they asked people, how chronically online are you, basically. So they have a spectrum of people who are chronically online or not. And they have them sit in a room doing nothing. And then for 60 minutes. Okay.
60.
60, yeah, 1 hour.
Okay.
And at the end of the hour, they ask how much time they think has passed. So she found that people who were always online or on their computers or smartphones overestimated the amount of time that had passed compared to those who rarely use technology. So while sitting in a room, they would think an hour had passed when really it had only been 15 minutes in the experiment. Yes.
Okay.
And that perception difference made them feel more stressed also, because they felt like they were running out of time in comparison to the people in the study who weren't chronically online.
Yeah, I went to a float spa like 2 months ago.
You did?
Yeah, it was awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like where and
Isaiah,
how
my
much did that
boyfriend.
cost? I was gonna ask.
I did not pay a cent.
Isaiah's a fancy man.
He is a fancy
For
man.
listeners.
He took me to a float spa, and I had napped beforehand, which was kind of a dumb idea. I should have napped while I was in the float spa, but I was so tired. Anyway, I had a great day. I napped and then I went to a float spa, but I was in basically it's a sensory deprivation tank for an hour. And you're floating in water that has like 1,000 pounds of Epsom salt in it or something, and it's pitch black. And you're in a weird shaped like egg thing. I mean, it's big. It's like jacuzzi size. Isaiah could like fully lay. So it was like at least 6 feet, 6.5 feet long. We were not in the same tank or
Perverts.
Yeah, stop thinking about that, guys. Anyway, and you just float around, and since I had just slept and I was fully awake, I felt like I was in that thing forever. It was an hour. I felt like at some points I felt like no time had passed. At some points I felt like so much time had passed. I also couldn't see anything, like I couldn't see my hand in front of my face. And I remember at one point I was very relaxed, but then I started being like, okay, wait, why don't I know how much time has passed? How much time has passed? I feel like I've been in here too long. And then when it ended, I remember thinking like, whoa, that was way longer than an hour. Like that felt like way, way, way longer than an hour, which makes sense because I am online constantly. I also want to add that I think you and I are a specific are kind of different than like the average 20 mid 20-year-old like professional who spends their day doing many, many tasks at work and then comes home and doesn't know what to do with themselves because you have class after you do that, and I
Mhm.
just have class. So I do spend a lot of time reading, and I
Mhm.
have to say, reading is really good for you, you guys.
It is.
It's so good for you. It will make you smarter and calm, and time will pass in such a cool way. Like you'll read a really good book and then look up and you'll be like, it's been an hour? That was so fast.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point. Just in general, like it's good for us to sort of recognize what in our daily lives, like what brain muscles we aren't using, uh,
Hmm.
and kind of try to get you working those muscles a little bit outside of work, which is sucks because sometimes it doesn't feel like relaxation,
Hmm.
but I do think it's really good for your brain. Like, it's why they say like crossword puzzles are so
I
good
was
for your
just gonna say
brain.
puzzles.
Yeah, because I mean, it really is like your brain is like a muscle with different things that you need to flex.
Yeah.
So great, great shout out for reading, Christina.
Shout out.
Shout out reading.
Hmm.
Um, but I thought it was interesting too that Aoife said that their interpretation of the research was this idea that we're trying to emulate the technology to go back to kind of like the brain processing versus computer processing.
Hmm.
So that's kind of interesting. The other thing that I think is interesting is like that I can't even get into right now is like, we're just talking about that technology changes our perception of time, but is that a good or a bad thing? Right. So like Aoife had a little bit to say about that like maybe there could be positive things about this speed up that's happening in our brains, but like
Hmm.
we can't really make a comment on that right now.
Yeah.
You brought up COVID earlier, and I thought it was interesting. One thing that I found was, and I feel like a lot of us felt like this, that our perception of time slowed down during the pandemic.
Hmm.
So, kind of like opposite to what we see with technology, which normally speeds things up, we felt like life was really slowing down during the pandemic, which is called time expansion. And this was linked to feelings of isolation and a lack of enjoyable activities during the time period.
Hmm.
So I think one other thing I was thinking about was like, there's just a lot going on. We have a lot of different theories about how time interacts with technology and the idea of perception of time. And I thought this was interesting because basically one of, I think, the most studied areas of perception of time is that you feel time speeding up as you age. Like that's what I saw a lot everywhere. It was mostly
Right.
about like less about technology, but just a lot of people are interested in the effects of your perception of time as you age.
Yeah.
And the leading theories about why that happens is because as you get older, you have more to think about. You have less new experiences and more routine, which I think also kind of goes to the pandemic too,
Hmm. Yeah.
but is the opposite because during the pandemic, we had less new experiences and more routine, but we felt it was slowing. But as
No,
you
we
get
had less.
older,
I would say we had less routine.
okay.
People had a hustle, hustle, American culture. Take it
Yeah.
away from the office.
Yeah.
People didn't know what to do with themselves.
I guess I'm thinking about routine as monotony, which
Yeah, there was more monotony, I
yeah,
would say. I think, and also like, I guess with the older people thinking that time is moving faster as they age. Is that what you said?
as you get older, time speeds up. Yeah.
Yeah. There, the more to think about thing is funny. I guess like more experience, more past experiences to ruminate on or whatever. But
I guess.
also like the percent a year of your life is a much smaller percentage when you're 60 versus when you're 15.
Hmm.
So you just feel like more time has conglomerated, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's another way to think about it. And I think that also goes to the new experiences too, that like
Mhm.
you just naturally as you get older, there's less you can experience new, although the world
Mhm.
does change a lot. So we're
Mhm.
always living in a new world. And I won't get into my
A brave
personal
new world.
theory, a brave new world,
Hmm.
but my personal theory
Hmm.
about aging
Hmm.
and time,
Hmm.
which is about space time. I won't get into it,
Why
but
won't you get into it?
because it's a lot to explain.
We don't
But
have time.
essentially, my theory that I always talk about is if I never stop moving, I'll live forever because space and time are connected. And if you take up more space, you take up less time. But if you take up less space, you take up more time. So if you stop moving, you're taking up more time. It's going faster. You'll die sooner.
We
And
should
that's Albert Einstein.
we
What
canceled Albert Einstein in our last episode.
we did, what we say.
We just said we wouldn't want him at our dead person dinner party.
Oh, you said that. Did I say that
Okay.
too?
Oh no, you wanted him to debate.
Yeah.
You guys were just
But I
talking
would
about space time. That's why you wanted him there. Hmm.
yeah, I just wanted him to agree with me. Now I'll move. I'm moving to the end of my speech.
Okay, because we're about done.
Okay. So I'll just say quick about this going back to the attention economy and interactions with the economy, because I think this is really interesting. So this is coming from Pressed for Time, the book. So I think one thing that is interesting to think about is like not all technology makes us feel this way. So
Right.
one good example is the baby bottle. So
Yes, that's technology.
the baby bottle is technology, and it
Mhm.
really did transform how women were able to spend their time.
So true.
But is it like, and it's interesting to think about, like, is the iPhone really like, is it really giving us more time or does it waste our time?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's not a baby bottle.
It's so much more complicated than that.
It really is. And I think there's another thing here, which we've probably talked about on the pod before, but it's like hustle culture and productivity, right? There's this idea that acceleration and going faster is conflated with productivity, which of course is something we do to, benefit us in our economy. And this goes back pretty far, this idea of time and technology and the economy being linked. So even like fishermen looking at the tides or farmers looking at the harvest cycles, we talked about literally in our language, time was spent and not passed, since like the 18th century.
Whoa. Oh my God.
And this is, yeah, and this is
Mind blown.
mind blown. And this is also a Puritan ideal.
I don't know her.
What Puritanism is.
That doesn't, yeah. I mean, like,
So
no,
the
I don't know what that means.
so Puritanism, I don't really know what it is all the way either, but it is like a founding I mean, it's a religious movement, so it's a founding
Mm-hmm.
religious movement in the United States. But what it has to do with this is just the idea of idleness being a sin and labor of virtue. So that's a Puritan ideal.
Oh my God. Wait, I do know what this is because Becca Martinez on Chatty Bros was talking about it
Mm-hmm.
because her parents were Puritan,
Oh,
kind
interesting.
of, or something. I don't know. But she was saying, yeah, like a lot of my Christian guilt is about like not doing things with my time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I feel that,
I would agree.
though not Puritan.
And not Christian guilt. Um, but I feel
But
it.
guilt indeed.
Yes.
But
Okay.
guilt all the same.
Yes. And then, so I made this connection then to the commodification of time, which is the attention economy, right?
Right.
And it's interesting because literally what we're doing in the attention economy is giving away our time in the form of our attention. So is that why we feel like it's speeding up and we have less of it? Because now we interact with these businesses who are literally in the business of taking our attention.
AKA our time.
Yes. Yeah.
If I had time, I would put an explosion where I've been saying in this episode, but I don't feel like doing that.
I'll do a Foley artist one right now.
Like a fart, a real weird one.
You can't see it, but I actually just stood up and farted into the microphone.
Thank God this is on Zoom. First fart joke of the pod.
Hey.
Yeah. People are making money on our time. Time is
Yeah.
money. And just
Yeah, time is
that
money.
old adage, time is money.
Yeah, there's a lot of adages about money. I mean, time and money.
I mean, aren't they the same though?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. On an adjacent note, it's so interesting what is money, you know? Because like I work at a store and every blank space on a table or on a rack is a sale that could have been made,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So it's interesting how we think of those things.
I agree.
Which makes me feel like two things. Money is not real,
Mm-hmm.
and neither is time. In the sense that like it's fully maybe not fully, maybe I'm not ready to make that statement. But it really has to do with how we perceive it, huh?
Yeah. No, I mean, one thing I read that was in the I think they talk about it in Press for Time, but so in the end, I said the fishermen look to the tides and the farmers to harvest cycles, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then when the Industrial Revolution came about, they didn't have they needed different markers for time because they equated productivity to time. So that's when they started putting clocks in factories because they needed people to be connected with time.
So that they would feel like, so that they would do things faster, or
They because the value is on time. So they
right?
needed
How many things you can make in a certain amount of time? That's the metric.
right. So they
Yeah.
needed clocks, they needed time.
Yeah.
And they, obviously a factory can still run without a clock in it.
Yeah.
But it is so interesting that like
Yeah.
time
By noon, you should have made 200
widgets.
napkins.
But yeah, no, it is completely made up because
Yeah.
it only exists in some cases to track productivity and to 40-hour work week or whatever to meet standards to make companies feel like they are making money.
Yeah. This has been so enlightening to me.
Yeah, this was really interesting to research.
Thank you.
And it's very like disconnected. Like it's one of those things that I feel like there would have been more out there, but there wasn't really.
Yeah. Next time we are going to talk about nostalgic. Well, next time is internet cafe, but part 2 is about nostalgic culture and
Nostalgia.
nostalgia and looking backwards always, or like this idea that like you know, I would just say nostalgia is close to hindsight is 2020 or rose-colored glasses, all of that. But we're going to talk about it from like a 2022 American perspective. And I think it'll be interesting.
Fascinating.
Think Make America Great Again. Think bell bottoms. Think Y2K. Just think about it. And happy nuptials to Tiffany Trump. Is that her name who got married?
I don't know.
Oh.
I wasn't invited.
I couldn't make it.
Oh my God. It's crazy.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for listening today.
Christina, stop crying.
This afternoon. We will talk to you later for the internet cafe, and we should make a jingle out. Oh, tell your roommates, friends, loved ones, cousins that you don't know what to talk to them about on Thanksgiving. Oh my God.
Yes.
To listen to the pod.
Yes.
And as always, let us know if there's anything you want us to talk about. So thanks for listening.
Bye.